Tenney, and our new alternate, Judy Weiger-Gross. For you guys, just meet everybody else. Do you want to go around real quick? And we've sort of been introducing, but just go around. Kirk, why don't you introduce Kirk?
Introduce yourself.
Introduce yourself.
Kirk Fisk.
Don Keeler.
Jerry Baker.
Luther Tenney.
Susan Shasha.
Dan Werner.
Chris Robbins.
Judy Weiger-Gross.
Kathleen Ramsey.
And Heather Seeley is on her way in.
Heather's coming in.
So Judy, we have a full complement today, so you are welcome to participate fully in the conversation, but no voting for you today. So, okay. So let's take a look at the agenda. I don't think there's anything up for additions, but does anybody have anything else they wanted to add?
Pretty optimistic. We'll be done at 6 o'clock for this agenda.
So, Don,
I was wondering first time in, I'm like, holy moly.
I think with that in mind, there are some priority items that we'd like to get to.
Yes.
Creek Road study, the engineering proposal, and the municipal roads grants and aid project.
So we're just going to reorganize a little bit and do Creek Road first, and at the 530 engineering proposal, and then the 540 municipal roads grants and aids pilot project, and then we'll go back up to project updates and work our way back down again. If that's okay with everyone? I'm looking for a motion to accept the agenda as amended. Thanks, Kathleen. Thanks, Gary. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, thanks, Chris. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Approval of the meeting minutes from June 8th, 2017. Are there any corrections, additions, comments that people would like to give? Looks like Chris has got one.
After we talked about the water mains, I made a comment that our low density of development increases the per household cost of water main maintenance, and I wonder if it'd be okay to put that in.
Is there any objection to putting that in there in meeting minutes? It's fine with me.
I'm not sure I understand what she's saying.
Well, for example, the Gorham Lane subdivision was one of the ones. I think the cost of fixing it is $565,000. That's $15,000 per household, and our yards are 150 feet wide. So if our yards were only 75 feet wide, it would only be half of that. So what I'm saying is we have a lot of low-density development in town, and that increases the per household cost of maintaining the water mains.
Pretty evident, isn't it?
Yeah.
And other places are much lower density than that.
So it's just a comment.
Yeah.
Anything else? Hey, Heather.
Hi.
All right, so is there a motion to approve the meeting minutes as amended? Anybody?
So move.
Thank you, Chris. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Heather. All in favor?
Sleeping.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I was absent.
Okay, so there's one absent, one abstention, and any objections? Okay. All right, so first up is the Creek Road Study Review. And I'm going to do a quick little background, as much for everyone else as it is for myself, just to remind us. Back in the spring of 2015, we closed Creek Road, was closed by the Select Board due to significant road erosion along the banks of Otter Creek. Gates were installed to allow access to farmers, and in the meantime, we started to look at what we could do to possibly reopen the road. In the summer of 2015, the town applied for and received funding from the Addison County Regional Planning Transportation Advisory Committee to complete an assessment of the flooding, erosion, and other issues associated with the high flood levels in Otter Creek that have resulted in damage to Creek Road, Otter Creek, and the abutting properties. And then in February of 2016, the Regional Planning Commission, on behalf of the town of Middlebury, contracted with Pathways Consulting to complete the Middlebury Creek Road Erosion Stability Study. And the goal of the study was to assess the nature of flooding and bank erosion along the Otter Creek, explore strategies for stabilizing the banks, identify lower-cost, sustainable alternatives for reopening the road, and provide alternative designs with cost estimates. And after careful consideration with the small working group and everyone else, they have presented their executive summary, which hopefully everyone's read, and it's here in our packet. I was thinking the best way to approach it is to make sure that the committee itself got all their sort of technical questions answered so that we all understood the project, and then get into thoughts of the project. Not sure if there's anything else people wanted to. Kathleen, is there anything you wanted to add? Is that okay? All right, so do people on the committee have questions about what you read in your packet and what the summary is? Hopefully it was pretty clear to everybody. Did a mapping of the preferred alternative and then broke down the different alternatives from the no-build, the recommended one, and then the second recommended, third recommended, and then the fourth.
One of the things that bothers me a little bit, Susan, is
Sure.
there's no dollar amount as to acquiring rights of ways. I'm just bothered by the fact that we should, if we're going to have all the facts, we should know what the costs are going to be to do option A or B.
Yeah, and I share that, but it really wasn't in as part of our charge
know.
at the time. So I think part of our charge tonight is to decide what else do we need in order to go forward. So it's a good note.
I thought they put an estimate in there for, there was an order of magnitude estimate for right-of-way acquisition.
Right. So I mean, you don't have an exact cost, but it's in there in a best guess scenario.
Land acquisitions don't always go the way projected. There's always some little quirk that,
I understand. It's a best guess. It's
Yeah,
not a
right.
lockdown number.
And we specifically identified that cost in the study, or that estimate in the study, as some landowners have expressed a willingness to contribute to the project in that way.
right.
Correct. So, does anyone in the audience have a technical question just to understand what's being presented? Because otherwise I'd like to get into just our thoughts and feelings about it. Is that okay? Everyone's looking around. Okay. So, thoughts from the committee about the different design alternatives? The recommendation, if you remember what we worked with before, there was a lot of guessing as to what, if we wanted an alternative to just going in and doing what we normally do on the road, what those costs would involve.
I think from where I'm coming from, Susan, is there's only one person sitting in the audience here that actually is impacted by what we do with that road, whether we close it or whether we fix it. And that would be that gentleman right there. I would like to hear what he has to say.
I would agree, but I would also say that I think there are other
Yeah.
people who are impacted, certainly by the farmers, and
I don't know, like the property owner who resides there.
I agree. Is there anything else people have before I open it up to the floor?
There's two property owners sitting in
Where's
the,
Right,
Mr. Knopp is also here,
right.
and it does,
He's not a resident, he's
he
a
owns
farmer.
property on that road, and it doesn't matter whether it's a resident or it's a farm property, he still has a right to access that property.
Not disagreeing with you,
Okay.
but when it's flooded, he can't get to it either, so.
Well,
So I guess, would you like to comment, Mark?
Sure.
For us?
Thank you.
I can.
Make sure you say who you are for the record, please.
Mark Perrin, live in Middlebury, live on Creek Road, 1637 Creek Road. I certainly can appreciate the challenge that you folks are in discussion with here, because it's costly any way you look at it. I'd like to share a couple of perspectives if I could. One is a property owner, as Mr. Keeler has mentioned. It's been in the family since 1967. I personally have lived there since 1990, and as a resident of that property and a property owner of Middlebury, we just want to get to the end of our driveway, however we can do that. Okay. As a Middlebury resident and taxpayer resident, I think one of the things that is a challenge is the cost of the project. And even though it's not on the agenda today, are you considering, the question I have is, are you considering other alternatives? In other words, a road out through the back, because there's been a lot of development from the end of Middle Road currently right down to the edge of our property, which may be a less costly option that the town of Middlebury might want to consider. And it wasn't part of the options to reopen Creek Road in this, but I'm curious as to if there's going to be a study done for that, and so that when the cost analysis is considered, that we can see what that is. The third
I'm sorry, just to interrupt you. There was one of the design alternatives, I think the third one is the one that you're talking about?
Coming from
Yep.
the South Ridge development.
Oh, there is, okay, I
Yes.
missed that, I'm sorry.
That was thoroughly vetted, so that is one of the alternatives.
Okay, good to know. And the third perspective is, a person who loves to travel along that road. It's a 1.2-mile drive every day, multiple times, and it's an absolutely beautiful road. It's enjoyed by a number of people. Since the road's been closed, the pedestrian bike traffic has increased tremendously, along with the amount of animals that come with their owners down the road. We don't see the through traffic like we used to see, but we still see plenty of vehicular traffic as people come down the road, enjoy the scenery and the river at different times of year, and of course they turn around at the bottom of our driveway and they turn around in the turnaround spot that's been there. The last time I had talked with anybody from the town in regards to how we as a property owner might consider looking at a middle road venture in terms of an extended driveway or something was with an employee that's no longer with the town. And so I believe that was a year and a half, 2 years ago that we had that conversation. And there's a new solar project that's going to be built right at the end of our laneway down there as well. So I strongly encourage the committee to look at that as an alternative as well, because when it comes to floating bonds and continual maintenance of roads, I think that'll be an important cost factor to look at. And once again, having sat on that side of the table many times over the last 18 years for various projects, this one's not an easy one. There's a lot of emotions that are out there, and I can tell you, as a person who lives on Creek Road, anytime I've ever talked with anybody that loves that road, whether they like to travel it or walk it or bike it, they're telling the truth. It's beautiful. And and as a Middlebury taxpayer who's been sensitive to tax rates for a number of years, the more information that's out there so that all of us in the town of Middlebury can make some of these financial decisions, the better off I think we'll all be. So unless anybody has any specific questions.
Yeah. Just so you know, design alternative number 3 is the one that
I'll take
you were
a look.
I
mentioning.
wonder if you could show that, to see if it's what you're talking about.
It'll take her a minute to find. It's not part of the executive summary because it wasn't the one that was chosen as
So-
the first one.
The design 3 is 2,000 linear feet of 6-foot wide right-of-way on 2 private properties, and then 3,970 linear feet, average 10 to 15 foot wide on 6 private properties. That's right-of-way. one new driveway would be needed. 2,000 linear feet of new road alignment. Oh, it says it's construction, 2,000 linear feet connecting Creek Road to Meadow Glen Drive, and shift 4,210 linear feet of existing Creek Road east within near existing right-of-way to restore 25-foot riparian buffer, and abandon 4,800 linear feet segment of North Creek Road.
Yeah, I'm not, to be honest with you, I'd have to see that on a map
It's up there.
to see what that, oh, I see. Is that red piece?
Right, and so from the red piece all the way to the left would be abandoned, and that didn't address the.
No, to the
No,
right.
to the right.
The yellow
Creek Road
part would
north
be
would be
abandoned.
Exactly, yeah, to the right.
To the right.
No?
Yellow would be the abandoned portion. Strike yellow.
I'm sorry.
Is there not some land trust land
Sorry.
in between there, Mark?
Not the good person to explain this.
I'd have to ask Mr. Knopp if his land's in land trust. I know our particular land that is there, I don't believe is in land trust because there's and if there is, where that, I can show you. This section of road right there, that runs on a laneway that we already have there. And there's land trust valuation in this piece right here.
Okay.
And so I'm not sure what this is. I'm not sure what the point of this is either. In other words, I would, what I was saying, abutting our property, I'm referring to here, and a driveway to here. I'm not sure, by the looks of this, it's connecting to Creek Road, and then it's coming down Creek Road, and it's connecting to our current driveway. And when I had talked with Dale in the past, we were talking about a road that just came to the backside of the barns and the shed. And so I wasn't considering this as.
So this is,
Like a long way to get to the.
More of a
This-
private drive, a drive
It would
to
be-
your property.
I was
Right.
thinking, if the town built a private drive to this point on the edge of our, toward the property, and then fix the road here, we would take over this part of the road to the drive. to
But
the
it-
house.
but that doesn't allow the
doesn't
road
address the
to
rest
stay
of
open.
It doesn't allow this section of the road. Are you talking about, so this and three, this part of the road stays open?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's not what it does.
So this Design 3 proposal maintains connectivity around, from 3 Mile Bridge Road back around.
And I would argue that the road that's from this point down through here is as scenic as any part of this road.
Right. Well, it wasn't one of the,
Yeah,
it wasn't,
an option.
it wasn't the first one chosen, it was it was labeled number 3, so.
And so I only encourage you to look at all options, so I guess what I was referring to would be an option 4.
And that was one of the ones that we looked at right in the beginning. It wasn't one of the ones even in this, so it was looked at. So,
Okay, so, any other questions?
that's good. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Smart. I'd like to hear from the other landowners too, and then we'll open it up to everyone else. But I think if the landowners would like to, Mr. Knott, did you want to say anything to us? It's okay if you don't. That's not the scenario. That's not the scenario that's been chosen. So let's be clear about that.
Well, when you say been
But it
chosen,
should say
recommended by the engineer?
chosen by the engineer to recommend. Yes, this is the option that's been recommended by the engineer.
I think that the town would have listened to people about 5 years ago and listened to them what you should have done. You wouldn't have this problem. I mean, with the trees hanging over the river, never cut them off, and it just eroded and eroded. I mean,
Well,
if you move that road that much, I mean, one of our peas would be worthless. I mean, that's corn ground, you know.
Exactly.
so, which is your piece? Can you point out which one is yours?
Well, I would like to see them fix the road here
No.
and there, and then it should be fine. Instead of making, you know, spending all that kind of money. How can you spend that kind of money on a short piece of road? Doesn't make sense. And I mean, all the studies you've had, I don't know how much money you spend, but I think it's a waste of money.
Which
How much, if you had all that money together, you could do quite a bit. And if you had two people who know the river, they would be able to tell you what you should have done, or what you should do now.
Okay. Thank you. Did anyone have any questions for Mr. Knott?
I guess my question is, you haven't been denied any access to your lands through this
No,
closure?
need to
Okay.
key and open the gates.
Okay, so that works for you right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I just-
It's not very handy.
Well,
Yeah, I was gonna say,
So, are there any other questions for Mr. Knott?
I appreciate your comments. I mean, I would echo vegetation on the edge of the river is probably the key thing. I'm just jumping into this, but I do see a lot of pictures and a lot of trees that were cut at the edge of the road. Having previously lived on the edge of a very sharp turn in a river, I know a lot of what rivers can do. And I do also agree, this is a heck of a lot of money for the problem at hand, you know, what they're recommending.
I don't think anybody would argue with you on that one.
Yeah, but how much money did you spend on the first 1,500 feet on the north end of Creek Road? 2.5 million?
On what?
North end of Creek Road.
The paved section?
From Court Street down past the stage shed.
Let me think about it. It's about 800,000.
Couple $100,000.
800.
800.
Yeah, for 1,500 feet. And we're talking one for the next how many miles? Versus 1,500 feet.
Judy?
And when we talk about a major, huge expense that everybody's scared of, we put that kind of money in the first 1,500 feet. What's wrong with finishing it?
I'm not arguing with you either way. I was hoping for a lower price tag, but we don't have that, so we're gonna have to, I'm gonna be realistic about that. So, hang on a second, let me let Judy talk.
Yeah, so, Mr. Knopf, and I think Luther got at this too, are you required by the state to have a riparian zone there? Or is it because it's the town's property that they can kind of circumvent that? Because I thought anybody who's living on a river, or a stream, or a creek, must have a riparian zone of a certain width.
There's usually an overlay area, but it's you can't require them to build something that's not there. So no, but it's an overlay district that is sort of protective. Is that what you're talking about, the fluvial erosion hazard area?
I think those standards would apply to a new road.
Right.
You know, considering it's an existing road, you probably don't have to abide by those standards. You're grandfathered to some degree.
If we changed the road, then there would be requirements to update it, but Luther's correct, to have it grandfathered in, you can't just sort of all of a sudden ask everyone to put a buffer in.
But isn't that just a good agricultural practice, is to have a buffer area?
It is.
So that it doesn't run into the river?
Yes.
Yes, but the road is there, so what does that?
The road
Road borders river.
blocks it.
He's not on the river side of the road.
Right.
Yeah, but But the road is between the river and his property or where he farms, so.
Right.
So what's the concern?
I don't understand. So, did you want to say something, Gary?
I said it.
Okay, so, did you want to?
Yeah, I would. And I'll try to be short.
Can you state your name just so I know who you are?
What's that?
State your name, please.
Oh, Pete Hubbard.
Thank you,
And I
Pete.
live in 3 Mile Bridge Road,
Okay.
and we've been here since 1761.
Wow.
You haven't, Peter. Peter?
Good genes.
I think they did a very thorough study. And the one thing that is so critical, and people just seem to overlook it, it's absolutely imperative that we allow that river to overflow its banks. It's imperative. You should never touch anything that will impair that, or else you're going to have a 27 flood down here. I don't know if you remember, but in the 1800s, CVPS did a batter board across the falls that flooded all those farm fields. 18 inches is all it took, because it only drops about 19 to 29 between Proctor and Middlebury. So that's number one. But the study said, correctly, that the river has not changed its course in multiple years, 100, 200 years. You have a lot of farms here. If you go, we go down every single day to that road, and there are always people down there. I don't think I've ever been down there when there are not people there. But if you go on that road, now that hasn't been touched in what, 2 years, right? Since you closed it.
Mm-hmm.
That road is perfect, right? There isn't a pothole in it. If you talk about having to maintain it, you don't have to touch it. So the issue that I see primarily is this spot right here where, because they didn't cut the tree, it tore the bank out. Now, I can't imagine it's going to cost very much to repair that spot. And once that's repaired and done the way they say you need to do it is correct, as long as you maintain the exact curve on that river, if you change it at all, you're going to change the whole course of the river. Now, if you don't believe me, just go down to 3 Mile Bridge and see what happened there when you put the riprap in as a wall to the river. The first thing it did, it extended the south bank. Then it created the back eddy, took out part of 3 Mile Bridge. Then it went across the river and took out about 14 feet of the south bank all the way around. But the river will fix itself, which is what it's doing now. And it's curving more to the east, trying to get back that natural curve, and it's starting to pull some of that soil away. But that's a perfect example of not that you shouldn't have hardened the road, but you have to do it correctly. And I know that it was done according to what they wanted to do, but they didn't follow the curve, and it's causing a lot of damage. But over here, where you have a piece that has been eroded, you still have all the trees in there. You can start to see the back eddies that are occurring. And I don't think, I was going to ask John how much he thought it would cost to re-armor that spot, keep the curve. It can't be very much. And you're talking millions of dollars to put in different types of roads possibly, when all you really need to do is fix that area. Now, I agree it's right next to the bank right there. But I think we talked to the Goodriches, and the Knopps are here, but the Goodriches farm all this other area. And they have said they wouldn't mind if you went another 25 feet or so to the east, just to give that riparian bank a chance to get some trees back in it and everything else. So in lieu of the town's financial situation with the bridges and everything else, to me, because that road hasn't changed much in years, I mean hundreds of years, to me, you need to fix that spot. I don't go down here, so I don't know, but I'm guessing it's the same thing. And as I say, it's been 2 years. That road is perfect. Now, it's going to flood, that's fine. Nobody needs to go on that road in the spring, early spring or winter. So I think the gates are good. Close the road off, people shouldn't be on it anyway. until it dries out enough that it's not going to damage the road bed. Then you open the gates up and let everybody go through. But to me, from the studies that they did, I think the town would be making a huge mistake to think that they need to put in a whole new road bed, a whole distance. Now, you've got the Knopps and the Goodriches, and you also have the Binghams. Now, I don't know what Alvy's doing anymore, but at some point, probably one of those two gentlemen are going to own that property and continue to farm it. So they need that access. And now just think if you're Hank. How many employees do you have? 17. Which one has the key to the gate? So you always have to be around to unlock that gate.
I just opened them up.
Yeah. So just think of the inconvenience that causes. And really, when you think about it in common sense terms, why does he need to do that? Because during the time that it floods, he can't plant, he can't do anything. So it shouldn't affect him. It shouldn't affect anybody else. So I just think that we need to take a step backwards, look at a fourth alternative, which is pretty much business as usual. Get that bank fixed before it erodes and causes problems. But just reopen the road during the summer and fall. And there are a lot of people that want to use it. I haven't found anybody that says they don't. And the only ones that have said anything other than that are the ones that say, well, we really like to walk our dogs or bike in there. Well, they always can. We always did. It never affected anything. So, I mean, they already have the biking and walking and running area in there. So I just think common sense is, it's nice to do the study. I think we got a lot of good data out of it. But you look in the middle of that study, what I just told you was pretty much what they told you, is that things haven't really changed there very much, except for a couple of those areas, and you can easily fix that. You don't have to come way back here and cut these fields in half or go through the swamp. I mean, you're crazy.
Yeah, I agree with you, Peter.
Just crazy.
Go ahead.
You know, John Seeley and I would bet that in 2 days we could go and fix that river. It's not a big problem.
You're gonna get me in trouble, Peter.
I probably will, but I know your husband does that work.
Yeah.
I could do it with my truck. It would take me a little bit longer and do it right.
Well, you know, Peter, I have to tell you, you probably remember in 1978, the Corps of Engineers, along with Bob Collins and everybody decided they were going to clean the river out.
Yeah.
And they went in there, and what they did is, they accelerated the flow of that river.
That's exactly right.
And caused the significant damage that we're looking at now.
You're absolutely right, Don, and you know, you really should know this. When they did East Middlebury, they came down and they cut all the leaners and everything out of the river. I live on the river. I've been there since 1969, and I watch it every day. In 2 years' time, double the leaners and trees in the river, because they straightened the river, they increased the flow and the cutting power of the river. You cannot change that. McIntyre's.
Who changed the river in East Middlebury?
What was that?
Who changed the river in East Middlebury?
The town. They wanted to straighten the section of it, I forget.
After hurricane.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and they straightened it up.
Okay.
I'm worried about what they're going to do
Phil
with it
Williams
now.
pulled all the trees
But
up.
McIntyre's, you need to go and just look at this. It's obvious. But when they came in to armor the road by McIntyre's, that was okay, except they wrapped the riprap around the corner and blocked the floodgate, that when the water comes up to bank level, it would flow right through the woods until it hit the marble vein, and then it would turn and flow straight south. Well, when they did what they did, they caused another back eddy, a big hole, everybody's seen it. The river is now turned almost going southeast.
Right.
I had planted trees all alongside the bank in '69, 10 feet back to hold the bank. They were 70 feet tall. And that change has moved that whole stream bank south. It's eroded tons and tons of topsoil. There are sandbars all over the river now. and it comes way around the corner, and it makes 3 bends before it gets to the marble, and it's still trying to straighten itself out. Now, in front of my house, when they did East Middlebury, they built up this huge sandbar, because that's the deposit zone of the river. Today, if you come down, it's finally, since 1980s, the river has finally been able to correct itself and open the river back up. But look at how long it took to repair that damage. So before you do these things, you've got to be really careful, because nature can do it better than anyone. And if you don't believe me, look at Irene, and what did nature do? She widened those rivers 2- and 3-fold. Have they ever had any flooding since then? The river down by me doesn't hardly ever go over the bank anymore. You know, because nature took. But anyway, I've said way too much.
Thanks.
But I
Go
really
ahead.
think you should
Go
keep
ahead,
that
Heather.
alone.
Great points.
It's very good. Thank you.
So I just want to comment quickly on the work that my company's done on the river versus some of the work that was done last year or
2 years ago.
2 years ago. In the part you're talking about, Pete, there was only a small section done.
No, I understand.
We never went, you know, the whole curve was never done. It was only a small section. And you're right, so the river is...
That's not your fault. That's what you were told.
No, I'm not saying that, but you can see the difference, what happens. But if you look at that repair job and what's been done on North Creek Road, where there is loads and loads of stone just dumped in the river, the river can't flow like it used to, and now we're going to end up with problems, I think, there based on that poor installation job. So I do agree with you. And then I just want to say, I am also in agreement that we ought to fix the section of the road that needs to be fixed, and it ought to get opened up. And like we do with Exchange Street sidewalk, water main repairs, anything else that we want to do, this looks to me like a long-term plan for this road. And it should be phased in and, you know, grants applied for, sections that can, you know, I see one large section, 2 smaller sections, and then maybe like the 3-mile bridge road. You know, I see 3 phases to that project right there. Maybe even the larger one broken into 4, so that we're not looking at a price tag, a one-shot deal. You know, fix what needs to be fixed and make a plan for phasing this work in over however long it makes sense to phase it in.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Maurice Ram. Could have saved it a whole lot of money. I've lived farm in that area with my dad. And I agree 100% as far as that, you know, your study said 100 years and it virtually has not changed. If you would have taken advice of residents, you sent out a questionnaire at the last meeting, September 7th, I believe, last year, sent out a questionnaire, you know, we'll get in contact with you, who have anything to offer. I have not heard one word about that. And then you go and spend all this money, like Mr. Knopp says. The money you spent on this could have easily fixed that spot, opened it up to traffic, and you have a responsibility to open that road. State statute says you are to repair a road and keep it open, unless it is officially closed. If you want to look at it, I looked it up. I think other people have. It's there. The general public who is involved in this has not taken the step to require you to do it, but we can. Not a threat, but all you need to do is fix what needs to be fixed, maintain the road, do it in sections, do it in phases, do it as it is needed. An area on that road, you spend money, crazily spend money on these roads where it does not need it. The highest part of this road, land that my father owned for over 50 years, they spent, I don't know how many dollars putting gravel, ditching that road, and it's the highest part of the road that never floods, and it's not even near the creek. For what reason? I don't understand. I don't understand. just maintain the road. You talk about spending $1 million here if you did it all in one shot. I look at estimates for a culvert on the road in a range between $139,000 and $175,000 to put one culvert in the road. For a culvert. Makes no sense. I really think that you need to step back, fix the road, open it up to the public. It's a road that's been, I've lived in that area all my life. I'm 73 years old. Totally agree with Peter, what's been done, some of the things back in '78 when they cleaned it out. The area where I get pretty emotional because this is really crazy. The bend on the East Middlebury River, where it comes into Otter Creek. If you think back, if that had been maintained, the appropriate trees taken out when they should have been, rather than creating an eddy, that just goes back to maintenance, just plain maintenance when it should be done. Okay? And that big bend that took out part of that road, that was a hurricane. That was Irene. We don't have those every year. And the information that should go out is the information that is true on this road. Yes, it floods. Yes, it needs to flood. It doesn't flood 2 or 3 times a year. In my lifetime, I can think of maybe 3 years where it's flooded twice. When we've had like a mild hurricane in the middle of the summer or in October. But most of the time, it's in the spring, it's snow melt. But that doesn't happen every year either. I just wish you'd really open the road. You should do it. It's your responsibility. Maintain it, and you don't have to spend $1 million, $1.5 million to do it.
Morris, I might want to add, it's not my responsibility, that's a select board responsibility. We're just a committee.
Well, you're a committee, but you're going to recommend. Okay?
It's not our responsibility.
Not your responsibility, but you're going to recommend.
We are an appointed subcommittee of the select board
Right.
for making these decisions.
We don't make it, we make recommendations to the
Yes.
select board.
But the select board looks to us to
Okay.
make those recommendations.
Go ahead, Chris. I'll come back. Let me
Yeah,
have Chris.
even though the river hasn't moved much in 70 years, which the report says, it's not like we haven't spent any money on it. We've spent a lot of money on riprap and putting, stone by the edge of the river, and part of the idea of moving it is to prevent us from needing to keep doing that.
I'm going to make a comment on that, putting riprap in there. If we're going to do it, let's do it right. Heather just mentioned that spot just on the end of the paved road, Creek Road, where was it done? Go down there and take a look. How many stones are out in the middle of the river?
In the middle of the river.
In the middle of Otter Creek.
The whole first...
They should not be there.
No.
Yeah, the whole first time they did it, it slid
very
in the
poor
river.
workmanship. I don't know who oversaw it.
Let me just explain something. The same situation happened at the high school further north. It's a very soft bottom of the river, and they thought they did it right, according to what all the engineers said, and it slid right into the river.
So, wait a second. I do want to address a couple things. I think most people here, I'm not going to disagree with you about fixing the river if it had been done differently in years past, but we have to kind of deal with what we have in front of us. I wish I wasn't a youngster back in the 60s and I could have helped with that situation, but I wasn't here, I was in a different place. So I appreciate the history of it, but there's really not too much I can do about what should have been done, and we need to really focus on what we can do going forward, and I think all of us can agree with that part. I think it's also important to realize that there's a cost balance here, and what got us got us started was we were spending so much just to fix this, then to fix this, and just to fix that, and to fix this, and how many more little fixes are we going to get before we really should take a look at the road as a whole? And that was what we were trying to do is this. So again, I appreciate, and I ride the road a lot, and I would like to open it up again too, but at the same time I have to look at it holistically for the town of what we can afford so that every couple years as things happen, we aren't just throwing a bunch of money at it. We have to plan for that. So are there some other people that want to speak to? Josh?
Yes, I think, so Josh Donabedian, Transportation Planner for the Addison County Retail Planning Commission. Something that I think is very important for the committee to consider is the forthcoming Municipal Roads General Permit Program. Beginning in 2018, the town is going to be required by state law to apply for this permit and do an inventory of every 100-meter road segment in the town of Middlebury that is hydrologically connected. I haven't looked at the map, but I'm guessing most, if not the entire length of this road is going to be hydrologically connected. Every 100-meter segment that is either eroding into the river or does not meet state standards is going to be required by state law to be fixed. So money is going to be spent, under state law, money is going to be mandated to be spent to remediate these sections of the road. So that's something that I just want to make sure.
And is that what you were talking about, Judy?
Well, no, but I think, not quite, but I think it's really important to understand what you gentlemen have mentioned about, I mean, a river is going to go where it wants to. And if that happens to take something out naturally, I think we really have to pay attention to that because, as another example, I mean, when Irene came, there were houses along 125 that had their basements flooded and first floor flooded and so on and so forth. And I talked to somebody who lived right on the corner of 125 and Schoolhouse Hill Road, and so that person lost their basement and furnace and so on and so forth. But he went, originally the river flowed right underneath his house. Mm-hmm. And it was trying to do the same thing. Now,
I think I know that house pretty well.
Shouldn't, yeah.
Yeah, this is a different situation. It's true, East Middlebury, they suspect that it went right down 125. That was the original riverbed. But they
suspect.
But they shifted it over. So I just want to see if there's anybody else here who wants to say something from the residents. And I know Mark might have to go, so did you want to say something else too?
No, not at this time.
Okay.
I mean, no.
Didn't want to forget about you.
Thank you.
I agree with many of the comments that are out in the field. Having lived on the river, having been through 2 floods by Schoolhouse Hill Road on 125, riprap is the knee-jerk reaction to an emergency. What doesn't happen is it's not followed up with the proper, and the engineers give the detail. They give a great detail of how it's supposed to be done. I think we can all agree that's how it's supposed to be done. And so I would agree that these sections that are either riprapped or are currently eroding, if done properly with this detail that's provided, could open the road reasonably. And I think that should be a strong option we should consider. I think this plan could be used, like Holly said, as a master plan. You know, we have many plans like this at the college that we implement over time. Heather, excuse me.
No,
that's all right.
You went to school with my sister.
Yeah, that you implement over time. Yeah, so I would agree with a lot of what's...
I agree with a lot of what's being said too, and I really like the idea of phasing things. Go ahead, Heather.
I'm sorry, Luther, but I'm going to disagree with you a little bit in that I don't think the engineers always know what the best thing is to do. Because in the 80s, they told us to clean the river out, and I don't think that was the best thing to do. They've told them, Dan, that they could go along and push stones down in the bank and that was okay to do, and it was not okay to do. I think people that have worked in the edge of a river and maintained and fixed the edge of a river, you know, sometimes may know a little better than, you know, what, I think the engineers can draw great pictures. I don't necessarily always agree they have the right answers.
So do you disagree with the details that are provided within the report?
I would question them, yes.
Which is totally fair.
I mean, if you go,
It's a vast difference between the riprap.
Yes. If you go look at what was done on the north end of Creek Road, and you look at this size of the stone and how it was put in, and then you go look at what's been done in other places and what it looks like, and the difference in how it was installed, it's night and day.
Good or bad, Heather?
Good. In my uneducated, unengineered opinion.
You're saying Creek Road is better than the other places you've seen? or-
No.
or worse? Oh.
Different installations on Creek Road are better than others.
So I've got Don, I've got Gary, and then I've got back out in the audience.
I'm gonna let Gary jump in because I know what he's gonna say.
Keep in mind, and most people don't realize it here, in the 80s, this was a political thing, the river. Hugh Berthiaume and some other farmers, and Maurice can attest to this. Hugh Berthiaume and some other farmers kept hammering away at the legislators. We got to fix the river, it's flooding because of the trees in it. So they got a grant, and they came, I don't know what kind of engineering they had, maybe not.
They didn't, they told Bob Collins to go clean up the river.
Yeah. And if you want to know, Susie Davis ran one of the crews, and you can imagine what the crews were like.
I don't know her, sorry.
Phil Williams. Phil Williams was involved in that.
She's a landscaper here.
Susie worked for Phil.
I know Susie real well.
And
They accelerated the flow of that river, which caused
right,
Exactly.
it's the same argument that
Again, I
Bingham
can,
had, that the bridge construction here has raised the river way up.
I can appreciate the frustration of why we're here, but I really need to stick with here and going forward.
And I would just add, and I argued this from day one, that we had the bank washout in front of the Bingham residence. It all started when we put that dry hydrant in there. It changed the flow of the river there, and then we put a big box culvert right next to it. We can't keep doing these things to this river and expect it to be normal.
Exactly.
We can't.
Yeah, having traveled from the bottom of our driveway out to 7 for the last 27 years and seeing different places falling and seeing different repairs, I can attest to the fact that there are certain pieces along that road that have been repaired and haven't budged. And I'd be curious to know what pieces, those places where it's been repaired that hasn't budged again, what was done on that section of the road, because that's what needs to be duplicated. And I don't have the records to know who did all the different places. I can tell you some of it, but some of the stuff that you folks have heard about, some of those repairs, that's very true. There's been different things done. And I was part of the facility committee at UD3 that tried to fix the bank at the end of the lacrosse field. And they tried the exact same thing there that they did in Weybridge, the engineering firm, and obviously it didn't work at all. So,
As it is in did it work in Weybridge?
it worked in Weybridge, in Weybridge on the creek, and that's why they used the same.
Whereabouts on the creek, bro?
I don't know where it was in Weybridge.
Just as you turn off
Are you
the Twin
talking
Bridges
about
on
the-
Field Days Road.
Oh, okay.
Watched that, yes.
Okay.
And
It was on my daughter's property, so.
That was before the dam was built or after?
Oh, no, this was just recently.
Okay,
The method that's holding up the best that Mark talks about now is the proper key-in method.
we've talked about that. So any final comments?
Well,
Because we have to wrap up.
just in summary, 3 quick things.
Okay.
It's common sense, and if I can tell you anything that I've learned over the years, if you look at that table, and think of it as a billiard table. I know I said this before, and you roll a cue ball down there, I guarantee you that it will not follow the border of that table. It's going to start caroming everywhere. That's exactly what a river does. Exactly. And what you just said, as long as they layer it properly and follow that curve, if they deviate even a little bit, it's going to cause a back eddy or it's going to cause erosion on the other side. It used to be that the town cut the trees. Now, the smartest thing that Mark did, I don't know if he did it, was he cut the trees right off his driveway. That's what you want to do, because they were leaning more and more in the river, and I was looking at it and I'm saying, boy, it's going to rip this bank right out. They cut it, the roots are there, the stumps are there, the river's sound right now. I think it'll stay that way, but that was a smart thing to have done.
Truth be told, credit to the Public Works.
Yes, but
Public Works
in the
cut
old
that.
days, they used to cut those leaners. And it's one thing if a tree's there, but once it gets to a certain point, there's just too much weight and pressure. It's going to literally tear that bank right out of the river. That's exactly what, I'll bet you, with all those hot spots, I'll bet you there were trees there that started to lean, and when the high water came up and increased that speed and the cutting power, with that leverage against it, it's all over. It's going to pull those trees right in and tear the bank out.
We used to cut them. I cut a lot of them this year.
Yeah, you leave the roots and the structure in.
The last 15 years, we haven't.
I just want a clarification.
Yes.
People are saying it was not a good idea to clean out the river, but you want to cut the trees, so what was in the river? Was it trees that had fallen in?
Fallen in trees.
So you want to cut them, but you want them in the river, so can you explain that to me?
No. When you cut them, what you really have to do is you cut them, take them out of the room, put them in the town so that people can cut them up for firewood and everything. What you want is, if it's
Don't
going to
wanna cut
lean,
'em
get rid of the tree, but leave the stump and the roots in the bank to hold that bank.
So when they cleared it out, what did they do?
Well,
They actually
in some
dredged it.
cases, it was natural. They just left the trees in the river, and of course, that changes the flow and everything else.
You mean what Don's talking
Which
about?
we've
What they
got
did
right
in the
now.
80s.
They actually dredged the river
Across
out,
Marks.
right?
They did.
They actually like,
All kinds of trees. You can see the back eddies.
It's on the west side, but it's across the marks.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought you meant they took out the trees that were,
No,
no, they actually
there was
dredged it.
50 years of trees in the river just every which way, which slowed the river down. It made it flood back into the fields. It let it down slowly, and then it went down through. You know, and I think some farmer said here a while ago that you shouldn't plant your corn next to the river until it's flooded over twice. I guess, you know, if Rada Creek comes over the river twice, then it's time to plant your corn.
Are there
So-
any final comments from anyone else? Okay, thank you for participating. I really appreciate it. Okay, guys, so,
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
well, we need to keep talking. You might want to stick around. So we need to think about what we want to take back to the select board. I hear people talking about phasing. I hear people talking about fixing the worst portion. I hear people talking about possibly opening the road again. Does anyone have anything?
Is there any expertise within the public works to be able to go down there and put some stone in to make that road safe to open?
Well,
What you will need is an Army Corps permit to do any work in the river.
Start out with.
That's the first thing.
I thought we had an open permit for down there for another 3 years. 2 years ago, it was a 5-year permit.
No, there's no such thing as a 5-year permit. It's a per spot permit. They don't blanket permits.
I was told as long as it was the key-in method, we were good for 5 years along that road.
No, the permit, the section we did on the north had to have a start and a finish, 140 feet. That was what the permit was for.
what,
I was misinformed.
Dan, don't you think Markowski did a good job there?
I don't want to get too far into the weeds, but
Yes, please.
here's the difference. The place where John Seeley did further south near Mark Perrin's farm was a fairly stable bank. The area where the high school had the failure and where we were working, right, we were working is, if you look from a big picture, was
was an outflow stream bed that now has that large concrete culvert there. When John was working, I could stand reasonably close to his work, and that road you couldn't even feel the vibration of that machine. This area, I was 200 feet away from that machine, and I was standing on a bowl of Jell-O. It was like this anytime he just turned the machine, whether he had a rock in or not, didn't matter. That ground was just Jell-O. So it's a different area in the river. The area in the high school, it sounds like it's the exact same stuff. I mean, it's different. So I know there's concerns about how something was installed versus here versus there, but there's different parts of that river behave differently. Across from Mark's farm on the east side, on the west side of the road, there's sections in there that you can't see now because the weeds are high, unless it's been mowed. That has sunk a foot or two since last year, and it's probably 100 or 200, 300 feet worth. That will come in at some time. It's where some of those trees that you talked about that were there.
Opposite bank.
On Mark's side of the river.
Okay.
I don't want to get too far, but there are areas that are continuing to change and sinking, just that you don't see them today very easily. So anyway.
I think where we are, our charge is done. We've gathered these things, but I think from what I see, maybe we should be asking the select board if we can explore phasing. Maybe we can explore the right-of-way. Explore if we're going to phase fixing the worst section first and what that would cost so that we could open the road. I think we need a little bit more exploration, and we need to ask the select board for the charge to do that. Is that something that the board's supportive of?
My first question is no matter what we do, how are we going to pay for it?
Well,
that would be my first question.
I would agree. It's
because right now there's no money in the budget to fix this road.
Correct.
This year.
Right.
Okay.
But we're also entering in our next lovely budgetary phase, and if we can explore this over the next couple months, maybe by the time we get to capital improvements, we will have a better idea of what we need to do.
But we're still a year away in budgeting.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
I just want these people to know that there's no money to fix this right now.
I understand that. Hang on a second. So, how does the rest of the board feel about that? Did you have something you wanted to say, Chris?
Well, do you think we should choose one of those alternatives and then say we're looking into how to phase it and how to pay for it?
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to start making up new alternatives, do we?
No, I'm not interested in making
Okay.
up new alternatives. So, think about that for a second. Yes, Dean?
No, I don't want.
Thank you. Appreciate that. What did you want?
I would just say, comment on what Don said about the cost. You know, I don't want to say the most popular way to fix it is the Army Corps. You key it in, but Luther has a point. Like, what about the treatments that the technique that's been written about in this larger report? Anyway, different techniques, different costs.
Right.
And so that's something that needs to be flushed out, is what is going to be the best way to do it and get out of there.
We found the estimate from Dale Hazard to key everything in the entire road, all the little deterioration areas, was $1.2 million, which is startlingly similar to what the other recommendation is in putting in buffer zones and armoring the different areas that are here, but it's long-term and much more sustainable. Again, at the same time, it's a similar price tag for the two different ways.
So has anybody looked into FEMA? I mean, there's always money. Seems like everybody else in the world gets FEMA money to build a bridge or build something, so I would like to think that we might want to ask.
Well, I will tell you that the river project in East Middlebury is dealing with FEMA money, and we are in year 6 now, and in phase 2. So, if you want to go that road,
but it's not costing
I
us
don't
anything.
think it even
It is
qualifies.
cost us something, yes.
Yeah.
It doesn't. You wouldn't qualify for anything.
I don't think it qualifies, but
Gotta
I
ask.
appreciate the chutzpah.
Wait for another.
But,
Exactly, you'd have to have another event.
so again, what can we take to the select board is,
Can I ask a clarification?
yes,
So, under design recommendation 3, under potential for grant funding, design recommendation 1 says yes. So what's that grant funding?
Josh just left, so,
I have a question. Did you not
hang on a second, I want to answer this first.
Yeah, I know. And a year and a half ago, I went to the select board meeting that VLCT put on, and they talked about that permitting thing, and I mentioned it to Dan and about, getting on top of that, and
Yep. So Josh pointed out a bunch of things. We also have a couple other projects that may or may not compete with this one if we apply. So that's an issue as well.
so the potential for grant funding is what he talked about?
Not just that, there's others as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
did that answer your question, though?
sort of.
Okay, did you get,
I just, just what Josh just said, is that you're going to have to do it anyway. That's what I heard you say.
right. We're not,
Why keep putting it off?
I don't think anybody is. I think we're saying the same. We have to ask permission for the select board in order to go forward at all. So, and it's this group that would make sure that that goes forward. So what is our charge going forward? That's what we have to ask the select board.
So
Part
can
of
I
the
make,
things too, Mo, is from a taxpayer in Middlebury, I want to know what it's going to cost.
I don't know what
So-
it's going to cost, but the public doesn't seem to have any say onto what other projects cost either, and some of them just seem to be really outrageous. It depends on where it is, I think. I'm not going to say.
If I might add two more, so I think a lot of our projects are based on the type of users and what is being used in an area. I know Dean talked about the Creek Road, the hundreds and hundreds of cars that go down Creek Road, that go into that development and go to the gym. I think that was a pretty wise investment there, and that money, a lot of it was sewer improvement and water. So you just can't,
Right.
I just wanted to clarify that.
Hang on a second. What did you want to
We all
say?
pay taxes the same, though,
All right,
whether I go to the gym.
so can I
please.
make a motion?
That would be great.
I make a motion that we recommend to the select board that we find a way to fix and open that road as quickly as possible, and in addition, develop a plan for phasing in and exploring grant funding opportunities for the recommended Design 1 alternative.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Kirk. Any discussion?
I would chime in here.
Yes.
I think that's a good move, but there isn't any money. How are you going to tell select board, do we want to open and fix, if there isn't any money? There's no money.
Didn't you figure out how to plant those money trees yet?
I don't want to send a directive to the select board to fix something when they don't have the money to fix it.
But the select board is required to maintain the roads, as Mr. Rayam pointed out. And
Been like that for 2 years.
we are on a very precarious situation where we have not done what we are required to do. And I would like to do what we're supposed to do.
I would argue a little bit that we are trying to fulfill our requirements. As Kathleen wrote in her letter, that
I agree with Heather.
we're working in good faith, trying to come up with reasonable dispatch to determine the extent of erosion on the banks of Otter Creek. So I don't think at any point that I have forgotten my duty with Otter Creek. So I'm not disagreeing with you, but I feel like I've been trying really hard at the same time.
I don't
The whole
disagree with
committee
you.
has been, and I think everyone out there has been as well. So, any other discussion? Yes, Chris?
So if you want us to fix the place that's causing the closure, can we fix it in the way that's recommended in the study?
For my tweak is, that would cover what Chris is saying, that to look at ways to fix it within the phasing within the phasing.
Yes.
So you would make a friendly amendment that the fix would be per recommendation?
Correct.
Okay. I have some, I'm fine with that. I will accept that friendly amendment. I do just, now, I'm the
First,
person.
accept the friendly amendment seconds, because you were the second.
I'm not an engineer, I don't claim to be, but when I look at this drawing, I see an ideal slope here that this design is based on, so that the river has a slope. And I think in the areas that need repair, that slope is long gone. And if the engineer was here, I would ask about that. I would ask how we're, in some cases where I've walked, that there's overhang and the bank actually goes like this.
Well,
And so would that recommendation be that we're cutting this to maintain that slope back and doing that installation?
What I would say is that, maybe talking with Peter and having some recommendations from him and from you, I think would be very welcome in the process going forward. And I think you make a great point. And I think Peter's made some great points too.
Based on the fact that we've tried other fixes on that road that have not gone as well as I would have hoped, I would think it would be a great idea to see some of this proposal done in a high slope area and see how it holds up for a couple of years before we commit to doing $1.5 million of work on the whole road like this.
I would agree.
And then we could say, yes, we like the way this works, or not.
So in order to do this, we have to shift the road over a bit, because there's no room to do it.
Right.
From an operational standpoint, what can the town do to reinstitute some vegetation that we've lost? It's not a capital project, but, again, having lived on a river, riprap, hard armor causes more erosion elsewhere, and if you're losing trees, you need to be putting, for every one tree you lose, you should be putting 2 or 3 back and start them small and get them growing. I don't know.
Funny you mentioned that.
That was
Operationally.
It is part of what he was talking about in here.
Right.
So it's the
That was a
vegetative
big
buffer,
factor.
putting it back.
There is, in some of the places along this road, there isn't room to put the trees back.
Understood.
Yeah.
Understood.
But that's why they were hoping to move the road to put that back in.
Yeah. Can I move the
That's
question?
related to the comment I want to make.
We have a motion on the floor. Can we move the question and then discuss?
Well, if you're going to do that, then we have to have a vote to actually vote on the vote. So can we just let one more comment go and then we'll vote? All right, last thing.
My suggestion is if you, when you fix that spot, the comments that were just made are correct, but you have verbal permission to widen that road. You don't have to widen it very much. It's just right in where that tree was ripped the bank out. Just move the road out just a little bit, just in that area. As you come around the corner, just extend it out. That will allow you the space that you need to follow the recommendation, which I think is correct in terms of the way you layer it and what you plan.
Thank you.
And if you're going to do it, that's the right way to do it.
They have the right under state statute to do that.
I understand, and thank you. All right, so we're going to call for the vote. All in favor, please say aye.
We're voting on the friendly amendment.
Yes.
Which is a fix based on the recommendation.
Do you want it read back to you?
No.
Okay.
I would.
Okay.
I would too.
Okay, that sounds great. Thank you, Kathleen.
Good luck with that, I rely on the tape. But
Do you want me to try to re-say what I
having room to find a way to fix and open the road as soon as possible, following the recommendations of the study report.
But to go forward with the phasing.
Phasing and exploring grant alternatives.
And I asked,
For the recommended alternative.
with the recommended alternative number 1, and I asked for that if it was going to get looked at to be fixed right away, that it was within phasing the project, in the scope of that, not separate on its own, but within looking at phasing the project.
The fix right away is not part of that motion.
Okay, we're going to phase the project, but that'll be the first phase, right?
Is to open the road.
Is to explore if we can open the road.
Okay.
Okay?
That's where we're at.
Well,
Okay.
Maybe we.
Well, I mean.
my recommendation is we figure out if we can afford to fix it and open it as soon as possible, and in the meantime, figure out funding and the possibility of phasing for recommended design 1.
But you just added in this time the funding. That wasn't part of the original discussion.
I
wanna
thought I
know
said
how we're
something
gonna
about
pay
that
for
the
it.
first time, did I
No.
not? Okay.
No.
Mike,
So why don't you take it from the top?
Yeah.
Yeah.
would you like me to rescind my motion?
Just
Please.
outline it the way you want it, so I can have it.
All right, let's try this again. So I would move that we recommend to the select board to fix the section of road that needs to be fixed, to open it as soon as possible, as soon as we can afford it, by the method outlined in the study, so that we can evaluate how this method also holds up while we are in the process of phasing, exploring grant funding to do the remainder of the work recommended in design number 1.
I'll second that.
Any other questions? Please, work with me. Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any objections? Okay, thank you. Thank you, everybody. Yay!
But the caveat is they gotta find the money.
Regroup. We need to talk about engineering proposals for Aldrich and Elliott and pump stations 3 and 4. Guys? Hey, guys. No. We're meeting.
Oh,
We
I
got
thought we were going
meeting.
home.
Let's go. Got my teacher voice on. Peggy would be proud. All right, Aldrich and Elliott. Engineering proposal, please. Take it away, Dan.
Okay, this is for design services to take a look at the force main from pump station number 9, which is Weybridge Street pump station, and pump station number 3, which is further back this way on Weybridge Street. This is right at the intersection of Weybridge Street and Jane Court. That's where those two force mains come together and enter a pipe that goes eventually through the sag pipe underneath Otter Creek. So what you have is pump station number 3 pumps north, pump station number 9 pumps south, and they hit each other. And so what we want to look at, is there a way to redesign how those two discharge pipes get into the main pipe that goes underneath.
So it's been like this since we put them in.
Yes.
So why is it now a problem?
Because the EPA, US EPA says you need to do something with combined sewer overflows.
How the hell do they know what's underneath Jane Court?
They don't, but what they want to stop is the overflows at pump station 9. And we want to look at if there is a hydraulically better way to make the pump station 9 work better and not have head losses
What
and
did
overflows.
Champlain do
because-
over there, Don?
I'm sorry, what?
What did Champlain do over there?
Sanitary sewer, gravity sewer repairs.
Okay.
So,
Which helped some of the groundwater infiltration in that area.
Dan, do these force mains, they're actually tied together before they discharge gravity?
They're right close to each other, within a
So
few
they
feet. from one-
discharge in the same manhole?
Yeah, in the pipe before it hits the manhole. There's a manhole in the Jane Court complex, And there's that pipe between that manhole and the intersection at Waybridge Street is where they tie together. We wanted, some of it's gonna be an exploratory dig to see what we have, but the effect, number 3 affects the efficiencies of number 9, and 9 overflows.
Is there any?
Best way to,
Yeah, here as we can tell, it's a low heat.
sorry, what?
It's a low heat. Kind of a chill zone. We believe,
Yep.
based on all the research.
Is there any communication between the two pump stations where they can talk to each other? Is that part of the study?
Could be.
Okay.
We could look at that.
I think,
It's not part of
I
this.
think that has been looked at.
Not part of the scope.
And it was determined not to be a good idea. When they need to pump, they need to pump.
I have no doubt.
On Monday night, we were walking over by Pump Station 9, and I did smell sewage, just this past Monday.
And we've had a lot of rain. So
So you still have strong infiltration in that area through to pump station 9?
So where's the 9,000 coming out of?
Sewer capital.
And how much we got left on that?
we have a new
Hundreds
budget.
of thousands.
We have a new budget year. So I would make a recommendation that I move that we recommend to the select board that we approve the Aldridge and Elliott proposal for engineering for pump station 3 and 9, whatever it says, for $9,800.
Is there a second? Thank you, Luther. Discussion?
Yeah. You know, funny, I'm a money guy, and I just have feelings about spending money, especially in a community where there's not a lot of money to go around. But I guess I'd like to say is, this $9,000 is just an engineering study. They don't even know what's there. How can they give you a proposal when they don't even know how to fix the problem?
We have some maps that the sewer department has found, a little contradictory, I believe, to what really actually might be there. So one of the things you're going to do is dig a hole and find out what you got.
So we don't know what we have.
You don't specifically know what you have until you dig a hole and find out what you have. But they're going to try to hydraulically design a more efficient joint or intersection of those two pipes. What's physically in the ground, we don't know. You don't know what
This
to dig.
9,000 is just to find out what's there. That isn't
to
to
design-
engineer how to fix it.
Yeah, it is.
It is?
Yeah.
Okay, you're gonna take that to the bank. All right.
what it says
I'm
right
gonna
here.
hold you to that.
That's what it says right here.
Okay,
Just
okay.
don't puncture the force main.
And we knew this work was coming, so we
Okay.
did plan some money for this.
So we're gonna spend 10 grand.
9,800.
Wow.
You're gonna get technical on me, Kirk.
Okay, I just,
All right, everybody,
Whatever.
let's, all in
I
favor?
spent $200 shoveling snow, so.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. So let's look at the municipal roads grant in aid pilot project, please.
Okay. So, Department of Environmental Conservation is going to run a grant program through the regional planning commissions to kind of get us going on this general permit that's coming up in the next, over the next years. So, one of the things, I gotta, I'll talk too long on this. I gotta commend the DEC. They seem to be getting their heads wrapped around some of this erosion issue. And so what they've done is taken a look at what Josh mentioned earlier, the hydraulically connected road segments that feed into streams or rivers or ponds, whatever you want to call it. And if you look on page, well, second to the last page of the packet, if you have the packet or printout, you'll see where Middlebury is at the top of that page alphabetically. This is 35 to 40 connected road miles. DEC is going to put $12,500 towards it. We would have to do $2,500 in cash or in kind, or most likely it would be in kind, to pursue the inventory, and then if you've read through this, look at what practices we will do to minimize erosion to the road surfaces and ditches and so on and so forth. So basically, the state has done an inventory for all of these towns. They know where those sections are, and then when we get into this, they're going to tell us where they are, and then it's up to us to come up with best practices to minimize.
So what do you do with, per se, Middlebury, which is all dirt? What do we do to stop the runoff?
Check dams, stone dams, clean ditches,
Keep a crown in the road.
yeah.
That one's got a crown, but.
So what we'll find out when we get into this is where are those road sections? And so that's been a big help that they've done that homework and let us know those areas that need to be looked at.
So you're looking to apply, right?
So-
Because the deadline is in a couple of days, like in a week and a half?
Yeah, we have to have, basically it's like a letter of intent that we'll participate.
Are you concerned at all about the completion date of October 31st of this year, or at the latest, June 30th of next year?
Well, I don't know that because we don't know what the program is, all the details about.
Okay, so you're just applying just to sort of place market and then be able to take a better look?
So this is a letter of intent, you don't have to accept the money.
Right. It's a great way to just sort of, do you want to
Puts us into place.
jump in the pool?
And all
Okay.
that's available to us is 12,500?
So, at the Transportation Advisory Committee meeting last night, Josh Donabedian, who was here earlier, said that it's going to depend on how many towns apply, and they need to spend this money. So potentially our share could go up if the number of towns doesn't apply.
And this is money to do some of this work?
Yep.
Okay. So I'll make a recommendation that I'll move that we make a recommendation to the select board to submit a letter of intent by July 5th to participate in the Municipal Roads Grant and Aid Pilot Project.
I don't think we got any choice anyway, have we, Dan?
Well, it's the way, you don't. But
Exactly.
but this is a way that DEC is going to throw some money at you to help get going on this general
Yeah.
permit.
So let's do it.
And so to
Exactly.
answer, I'm not sure which one of your questions, page 2, bottom set of bullets, eligible standards, things that they would like us to do.
Thank you,
5
Greg.
bullets, make it clear for you.
Grass
my
and
back.
stone line drainage ditches, yeah.
All right, we had a second, so all in favor, please
Say aye.
say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Dag nabbit, thank you. All right, so we are running low on time.
I got all night.
I would like to see if there's a lot of project update stuff. I'm sort of happy to put a pause on the water and wastewater budget review because I think there's some more things that could get worked on there. Did we need to, is there a time limit for the ecosystem restoration grant?
So there are 4 rounds this year.
Okay.
The ecosystem restoration grant. And is in the process of meeting with the regional engineers on that, and don't think that's going to be completed by July 5th, when the first round is due.
Okay.
The second round is September 19th.
So we've got some time to play with that.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
So did you want to tell us a specific project update? That
North and South Pleasant Street curb and sidewalk, contract will start July 5, Wednesday. Halpin Road project, wetland permit has been, I signed it. Jackie's going to get me a check to send along with that. And the Army Corps permit is well, it's not a permit, it's a self-verification form. That went back today.
Champlain's gonna take that bid.
We haven't approved Champlain's bid until we're going to get a good concurrence from the wetland folks as if there's anything else we need to do. So
were you saying something?
Were you done? Sorry.
I'm good.
Okay. So in Jim's update on the bridge work this morning, he mentioned something about this, and it wasn't July 5th. So did that change today?
Today.
Okay.
Can you let Jim,
Yep.
Jim know
So
that?
I mean, I thought we were trying to get this done before, like, the Festival on the Green and some of that other work. What happened?
Contractors delayed and his flat, I guess his concrete guys had schedule issues.
And you need to talk to
And-
Actor as
and
well?
the-
Contractors.
And the storm basins would not be ready until that time, so,
You'll coordinate that with Actor as well?
yes.
Okay.
Which project is that?
South Pleasant and North Pleasant. That's
The-
water main.
This signalization timing thing, that didn't come from our committee, so I'm not sure if that needs to follow up with someone, like, I just don't remember that being.
This was an issue on Middlebury Bike Head,
Okay.
and we thought that it would be an issue
Should we
to
put,
ask if you have any questions.
should we, well, my question is, I don't really hear what their concern is, so maybe we should invite them when we address that and see what that, because I can see Dan's point, but I'm not, I feel like I'm missing the other side of the conversation, so maybe we can invite them and talk it out. And it sounds like the water monitoring project is still sort of in hold, stasis, whatever you want to call it.
What is the water monitoring project, just to get up to speed?
The state, Feds Clean Water Act, the state therefore is requiring us to put chlorine and fluoride monitoring at the entry points of the distribution system. So that means a little outhouse for chlorine and fluoride at Palmer Springs entry point.
With an alarm probably tied to it?
24-hour monitoring, yeah, and also at well 3 out in the woods.
Yep.
Yep. And then some.
So that bid came in high then?
Higher than we wanted.
And we only got one.
We only got one bid.
At our next meeting, can we have an update on the private water lines? Because Kirk asked about that at our last meeting. And I'd also like to know the stormwater project in Chipman Park area, how that's going. So
Maybe we could get an update on the water meter installations and how that's coming
That would
next
be-
one.
That would be great. So are there any other questions or before we wrap it up? When is our next meeting? Are we meeting on the 2nd, or we need to
So,
change that?
The select board is having a public meeting on the Actor bus stop location.
On the
next-
27th?
On the 27th. So we'd like to suggest that the public, or the infrastructure committee get together on July 6th to discuss that and make a recommendation to the select board.
Correct. My question is, it's a different meeting than what we usually do. These afternoon meetings seem to be working for most people. Would we like to go, so it would be Thursday, July 6th. Would 4:30 work for everyone?
Works for me.
Works for
Steve
me.
nods this way. I didn't see
Heather?
Luther nodding this way.
I'll be out of
Do I
town.
want your calendar?
Should I got my calendar?
Oh, you got your calendar.
You'll be away?
You didn't leave it on your wife's
Okay.
car?
Does that work for you? Okay. She's our alternate, so she's ready to vote if you're not here. How about you, Luther? Just
July 6th, I think I can make that 4:30, you said?
4:30. Okay, sounds like that's a go.
And what
for you?
should?
Yeah,
do you think-
I may be a little late, but I'll be here.
Do you think we need to also meet the following Thursday?
Yes.
Or skip a week and then meet?
So we've got too much for just one meeting. So the question is, do we want to meet on the 13th or the 20th of July as well?
I will not be here on the 20th of July.
Sounds like the 13th. Do we want to do the morning or the afternoon again?
Let's do another afternoon. Now, that agreeable with you? 13th?
Let me just, I gotta get back to my calendar.
Mornings generally work better for me.
Heather,
What about
still working on his calendar.
mornings or afternoon?
Better for me.
13th works for me.
To me, but I'm going to be gone till about the
So let's make the
22nd.
13th, since that's our normal meeting, let's make that the morning. So the 13th will be morning, 8:15 is when we meet, but the 6th will be the 4:30. All right, look for your packets. Kathleen,
I
I
know-
know if you have any questions, hang on a second. Yeah, Gary?
What time is the 27 meeting?
5:30.
Here?
Any board member concerns? Kirk? Don? Gary? Luther? Heather?
Can I ask one question about the water budget,
Yes.
or do you want me to wait?
I think you put your concern on the table.
Okay. So the last time we looked at that, we were showing a deficit for budget 17, and that went away? The
Right, that was
Okay. So,
updated based on what the committee decided last year.
because we increased the rates to fix that, correct?
Thank you.
So, does water charges, budget fiscal year 18, is down $44,509. Why? Is it because the changes we made don't carry over? Or they do and people are using less water, and we, even with the rate increases we put in last year, we still have a $70,000 shortfall?
Okay. The forecasted amount for FY18 is lower than the budgeted for 17. Jackie and I have kind of worked on this, and we're kind of thinking that it's the estimation of water bills may have been overestimated, and so therefore drove the revenues higher than reality.
Okay.
And if, as long as we're on this for just a few seconds, if you turn to the last page, we need to, under reading of meters, that value needs to be 8,900. We'll make that edit, because it changes the bottom line. That changes the...
Meter reading which?
Meter reading...
Which one?
Cellular reading fee, sorry.
Cellular-
Needs to be 8,900,
This year?
yes,
So from 18,363 to 8,900?
yes.
Jesus, so now we need more.
No,
No.
Okay.
less. So that means the
Oh, okay.
deficit is at 61,742.
And
So-
the question that I asked Jackie at our last meeting was, is it that people aren't paying, so we're waiting for more payments, but you felt it was, they were paying, it was just,
It doesn't have to do with paying, because we
Right.
recognize revenue as it's earned.
which is good to know, that it's, it's probably that they're conserving, and what I was looking at with Ashley Luck was saying that our stuff is 77% based on usage instead of a base rate, and so as usage goes down, our estimates won't meet.
So the actual water charges number for fiscal year 15 was just under 1.1 million. The actual for 16 was, just under 1.2 million. Our year-to-date is 862,000,
3/4 billed.
okay? So, but we're lowering our actuals in 15, our actuals in 16, and now, those are actuals, and we're dropping it down roughly 40,000?
From 17.
But this is actuals. This is actual from 16. So why are we, I know we don't need to get into this now, I'm sorry, I want.
it'll
I
be a-
can't-
A better idea in July, because we will have billed June,
Okay,
but with the wet summer last summer, that really throws our biggest.
So when we come back, knowing that that's the question, maybe you'll be ready with that one. Chris?
Well, I was looking at the water main replacement list, and it's pretty eye-popping. It's really amazing, hundreds of thousands for each place. And we don't have that in the budget. looks
We would
like.
have to borrow.
So I did have a question. Why do rural areas like Sheep Farm Road and Happy Valley Road have town water?
Because that was an agreement or adoption by the select board years ago.
They don't have the ability to drill wells out there?
You talking about Happy Valley Road?
Sheep Farm
Yeah,
Road.
Sheep Farm Road.
Sheep
She
Farm
said
Road.
Happy Valley
Yep,
Road.
so Happy Valley is
That's-
Happy
listed on
Valley
here.
Road's in the town of Middlebury.
Yeah.
I've always had water there.
It's,
Don lives on it.
it was adopted by the select board to take on and supply water to.
That's right, sheep barn, yeah.
Whether it's a good move at the time, I don't know, but it's there, it's there.
Okay. Judy? Nothing? All right. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second it.
Yay. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
So Dan.
Go.